We were going to talk about NXT, weren't we?
We were. Is that what we're doing first? I assume so.
Well, yeah, because I figure it's like a Stewie Griffin compliment sandwich. We're going to start with something good. We're going to go to some in the middle, and then we're going to end up with some good stuff with the Road Warriors. But NXT troubles me because there's so much that I like and so much more I want to like or I wish I'd have liked if they'd only give me the chance. But I've got to admit, at first, the first things that I wrote on the pad were seriously, they're opening with a women's battle royal in a ratings war. Because, of course, most time you don't want to see a men's battle royal, and in a women's battle royal is even worse, right? But then I realized later on in this program, Brian, they're not in a ratings war. They're playing a long game. They're smarter than the amateurs over at the the Tony Khan Amateur Hour. Because they're not letting the ratings hold their program hostage at NXT. They're still doing stuff. I'm still not saying have a fucking women's battle royal for fuck's sake, right? But they're doing stuff that furthers their program and gets their talent over instead of just hot-shotting everything they possibly can and dropping the cow every week like they do over on the other channel. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes sense. They certainly are not operating most weeks like they're in a ratings war. They're just putting on a puzzling television show.
Well, in some cases it's puzzling, but I'll get to the point where I think I see what they're trying to do in some cases. But anyway, so this whole thing, it's a women's battle royal. I don't know how many of them there were in it. Way too many for my taste. Because they B-rolled old Mrs. Grandma Same Face with the gray hair. Old Candice LeRae, who Nancy Kerrigan Tegan Knox with a lead pipe and then ran over her with an equipment case. Apparently, the lead pipe to the knee was not sufficient. She ran over her with the equipment case. So this is the first thing we see on the program. The girls are doing backstage, unseen phantom injury attacks now. So what does it mean when the guys do it? Nothing. Because it's all the time. But anyway,
she did a good job of selling, though. I thought Tegan Knox did a good job of selling.
She was selling like she's going to the electric chair. But what the... they open with a 20-minute women's segment every week, and every week they get beat. I'd change up my strategy a little bit if I was just worried completely about the ratings. But at the same time, opening the program with the girls in the back with lead pipes, where do you fucking go? Just give it a second. But anyway, I was ready to fast forward, and then I saw Rhea Ripley's entrance, and I said, all right, I'm going to fast forward to see if she's one of the last 3 or 4 when it gets good. If she is, I'll stick with it. So I fast forwarded to a point where Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez, the other big girl they're building to their confrontation, they got in the middle of the ring. They had a better 1-2 than anybody on the other channel, but they eliminated each other. So at that point, I didn't care at all. So I fucking fast forwarded to the finish where Grandma LeRae and green-haired Shotzi did some kind of contrived bullshit on the apron and the stairs where they both had gone over the top rope, but they landed on the apron. Then they were on the stairs like 2 feet off the ground. And then they did a dangerous bump and an unimpressive finish at the same time. When Candice LeRae monkey flipped Shotzi off the stairs and she took a flat back bump on the floor. So it was a dangerous bump, but it was an unimpressive finish because they were only 2 feet off the fucking ground as they were fighting. And yes, it was a floor, but you get where I'm coming from. The whole idea, they've got so cute with these eliminations, both feet have to touch the floor, that now they're literally fighting less than 24 inches off the ground, and that's supposed to be dramatic. It's just fucking hell. 20 minutes, the first 20 minutes of the show for all of that. I was not a fan. What'd you think?
It really wasn't good. There were a lot of women in there. I had no idea who they were. sometimes they just say names and they assume you're supposed to know them. And I think, oh, I must have not seen this person on the show. And then I'm like, actually, I've watched this show every week for months. Not very good. Rhea Ripley's a star. She carries herself like a star. She seems to be a league above everyone else. Dakota Kai, once again, fantastic in there. It was kind of fun watching the Casey Cannizzaro spots where, because she's a ninja warrior, they throw her out and she lands on her hands and she doesn't touch the floor. At one point, she jumped onto the barricade where the plexiglass barricades are, or barriers, and they must have thought it was about to fall over. They quickly moved the camera back to the ring because it looked like she was off balance, and then they went back to her, so I don't know what happened, but not very good. Candice LeRae doesn't impress me very much. There's nothing else I could say, but I just... The only thing worse than a battle royal is a battle royal with no audience, where you don't hear anyone oohing and ahhing for any eliminations. It was just...
Well, but now, wait a minute. There's going to be some oohing and ahhing here later on. And
but there wasn't here.
But it's only in certain spots. Is the people just appear or something, or you hear them. They don't appear. You never see them, but you hear them. But we don't even have now. It's been a couple weeks. We don't even have the people beating on the plexiglass now. What the fuck happened there?
Well, again, remember, and we don't know.
I guess because they have an outbreak.
That's what I was going to say. As of recording time, we don't know who's affected, who is infected, who isn't
infected.
But if there is a COVID outbreak there, that may be a reason why there was absolutely no one banging on the glass or doing anything. No one breathing at a ringside.
Well, we hope that you're not affected. But anyway, after this thing, we go to an interview with Damian Priest about Johnny Sameface, and he, again, really good and natural, deep voice. And I've had somebody write me, say this guy has been around for, I guess he was Punishment Martinez in Ring of Honor a few years back. And again, I've heard that name, but that's not when I was not watching Ring of Honor. But he, at one point when he first started training, I guess, weighed like 300 and something pounds. So he's really transformed his body, but he's been doing that. You can tell because he's a grown adult and acts like one instead of a bad fucking high school acting class participant. Anyway, then we went to William Regal in the back with some of the guys who I later found a guy with the fucking hat and the guy, the Sherlock Holmes gimmick, but was one of Fan Dancer. And they were making that screwy tag team match that we'll get to later on that nobody understood what the fuck. I guess they were probably literally making it up as they went. But anyway, here, the next match, I like several of these guys. Tommaso Ciampa may be overall, top to bottom, my favorite fucking wrestler because I can't find a goddamn thing he does wrong. They had the rematch with Ciampa and Jake Atlas because he's the one that Ciampa returned a few weeks ago and just demolished, and they carted him out and they turned him over, et cetera, et cetera. And Jake Atlas can work. He doesn't have a convincing promo or a very intimidating voice or demeanor or whatever, but he can work, and he did a good job here. But the reason I say I can't find anything Ciampa does wrong is because he doesn't ever have a facial expression or a reaction that he shouldn't have, to me. He doesn't do things in his matches that he, as the person he is supposed to be, wouldn't do. He sells the guy at the guy's level, and this, he had fucking Atlas all over him several times. But he did it right because he had the guy on top of him windmilling, fucking doing everything he could, fighting for his fucking life. And Ciampa was off balance. He was on defense, but he was never in danger. He was in danger of getting fucking punched in the head or kicked or whatever. He wasn't in danger of losing. They made it believable because, like I said, when the guy was all over him, he sold it right. Then he would... One move, he'd fucking clothesline the guy out of his boots and take over for a second. Then the guy would have a fucking flurry. And it was more Ciampa being portrayed as just not being able to get out from under this fucking guy that's goddamn flipped out here, but he's probably going to. And then finally, after Atlas got one big false finish and you could almost buy it, then Ciampa stopped him, did that DDT, a draping DDT, boom, refused the fucking pin, slapped him around, trash talked him, hit another finish, and fucking beat him 1, 2, 3 flat. Tommaso Ciampa knows how to be Tommaso Ciampa. And it's so refreshing. This was a great match top to bottom, not because of the fact that they went 20 minutes or did this complicated series of gymnastics, but because it was exactly what it should have been, and they performed it perfectly. Facials, body language, attitude. Boom. There you go. What'd you think?
Yeah, can't really add too much to that. I thought it was all right. I thought Jake Atlas did a good job. Tommaso Ciampa is great. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with him next. They're still teasing. I guess they teased the Ciampa-O'Reilly confrontation last week, right?
Oh, well, yeah, and actually, I would like to see that, and I'm also looking forward to seeing O'Reilly and Thatcher, as we'll get to here in a few minutes. What do you think about old Ridge Holland? The package, we just watched Ring of Honor, as we talked about. And the packages they did on each of the talents in their tournament matches, we said were very sports-based. Even if these guys didn't look intimidating, the packages made them intimidating because it incorporated their real sports background, their athletic achievements. And so it made these guys on Ring of Honor somewhat tougher or more legitimate than you would think they were. With this guy, he looks like a beast, but by the time he finished with the scripted verbiage that they gave him, even though they showed pictures of him playing rugby and shit, I felt like Ring of Honor would have done this so much better. Did you get the feeling they went in the opposite direction? It was more entertainment than something you'd see on the UFC, like Ring of Honors were. Or did you watch it?
I watched it. I mean, someone may argue the other way and say that maybe Ring of Honor needs more costumes. Maybe Ring of Honor needs more people in flashy hallways doing poses. I mean, you go see it both ways.
All righty. The next match was the one we were talking about earlier that they made out of fucking paper clips and duct tape, apparently. Roderick Strong teaming with Danny Burch, who's an English fellow who normally teams with somebody else, whose name I can't recall at this time. And they faced Raul Mendoza from the Lucha group and Fabian Eichner from the German Imperium team. And the winning team then will have to get their regular partners in the future to wrestle each other. The announcers didn't even understand. And then the winner of that would get a tag title match at some time. The announcers didn't understand it. They made fun of Fan Dancer not explaining it right. And I didn't know what the fucking purpose of this was. But this was a stupid idea. Just have a single match amongst any of these fucking guys. If there was a flu problem, a COVID problem, why come up with something this complicated that even the people trying to explain it didn't understand? And Beth Phoenix, by the way, did a real good job on this program with a 2-person booth. She didn't get crowded out so much. She really stood out more. But why do this? I don't know. Do you have any? What were they going for?
I have no idea.
All right, well, they did a couple minutes. I saw a backslap tag by Danny Burch to Roddy, and I kind of zoned out. They went through a break. When Burch was in with Eichner, if one guy hadn't been wearing white boots, they looked like the fucking bald-headed Kelly twins. You can't tell them apart. And then Burch beat Mendoza after another backslap tag. I wrote, fuck this whole match. As goofy as a pet coon. I don't know what to say about the thing, but less said the better, probably.
Yeah, there's nothing really to add. It was just a makeshift match. I couldn't really care too much about it.
And then,
by the way, this show's been horrible so far. Let me just throw that in.
Well, no, except
to
for
everyone who thinks
Ciampa.
that we only rip on AEW, this show is horrible so far.
Yeah, well, except for Ciampa. Yeah, I'll agree with you, except for Ciampa. And we must find diamonds in the cow pies. They went to the locker room with Austin Theory, and I'm thinking, this kid's about to get a promo. They're going to push this kid. I love this kid. And he was about to be good. He got one line out, and here came Johnny Sameface in and did the promo for him. Basically saying if he beats Priest or hurts Priest or does anything to Priest, then he'll take care of him in the future, blah, blah. Austin Theory didn't get to say anything. It was Johnny Sameface. So, bleh. But this match, I'm going to give you observations. I observed that in all Friends Wrestling, Austin Theory would look like Hercules Hernandez. I can't believe this kid's only 22. I see when I'm watching him in the ring, I'm seeing the video that I saw of Lance Storm, the athletic ability, the effortless, just coordination and being in the right place in the ring all the time. I see that. His bumps and his reactions, his facials. This kid's he is way, way beyond his experience level. And the only thing in 10 years, he will be a superstar in some fashion in wrestling, either possibly as a babyface or a heel, because the only thing he needs facially, he just needs to get a little older because he's still so good looking. But my God, where the fuck he came from, they made him, they broke the mold. And Damian Priest can fucking work, which sometimes he doesn't get to show because he works with some of the other guys that have these either unorthodox styles or whatever, but he can work. They had a wrestling match. The first part of it is 2 segments, which I didn't mind in this case. I was enjoying every bit of it. I would have loved to have had these guys in OVW. They tremendous, both of them, grasp of what they're fucking doing. They did a great spot for the break where Priest went for a springboard thing and Theory knocked him over the top rope, foiling his move, and that was at least a decent cliffhanger break spot. Instead of just the same bland shit everybody else does. Anyway, on the other side, I loved the thing where Austin Theory did the forward roll through the ropes from the apron and then jumped up and hit the leaping drop kick. It looked like grown men struggling to and doing cool moves instead of cooperating with each other and doing cool moves and being high school children. Loved the comeback facials on Damian Priest when he kind of hulked up and made his comeback aggression. He falcon arrowed old Austin halfway across the ring. Then at one point, Austin Theory got a big power bomb move type of thing for a near fall. They went to the floor, and I was about to say it was a bit too long out on the floor for what they needed at that point. But Damian Priest, that he hit that spin, what they call it, a cyclone kick, a spinning kick. This is what Dino Douche on the other channel is trying to do, but he's too awkward to. This guy has the fucking cool kicks that don't look like a cow on ice. And then he hit the fucking razor's edge on Theory on the apron, which I never advocate. But in this case, it wasn't 2 stupid fucks doing a standing thing, Death Valley driver. He had him up, he was on the floor, and he dropped him safely as you can on that situation. And then get back in the ring, and Damian Priest hits his finish, 1, 2, 3. It was a great fucking match. Both these guys, Priest is going to be a big star. And he's already got the look. Theory's going to be a star because of his personality and his athleticism and his work, but he needs to find whatever look that's going to be when he becomes a star, because this ain't it yet. He's forming, but he's a puppy with big paws.
This was great. Best thing on the show by far.
Yes, this was the highlight, and everything else was second place or farther back. But then, of course, as Damian Priest is celebrating, here comes Johnny Sameface in, super kick out of nowhere, knocks him out. But it was short. We didn't have to look at him too long. Anyway, Anything else on that particular match?
No, I thought it was great. And I was watching the way Austin Theory moved in the ring. And it is crazy when you think about his age, but he's a natural, and he's really good. Damian Priest is really good. Compared to a lot of the other people on the show, it stood out what the match looked like. Not necessarily how they worked and what the match was, but looking at them, you could close your eyes and squint maybe a little bit, and you could see these two guys in the ring in 1990. You could see these two guys in the ring a few years before that, a few years after that. They don't look like little guys. They don't look like people with no muscle tone. They look like classic professional wrestlers. The Lance Storm comparison is interesting because now that I think about it, Austin Theory has a very similar physique to a young Lance Storm.
Yeah, and just his coordination in doing the flying shit, but not making it look like cheerleading. But anyway, he's a grown man. This what I was going to ask you was the weird video. Somebody's coming back. Who the fuck is it? I couldn't even understand half what they were saying because of the computer distortion of the voice and the security camera footage of this hooded person. Another hooded person is coming back after 5 years. Who's been gone for 5 years we'd give a shit about?
I don't know.
All right. Overdone a bit, possibly. The next match, we'll briefly touch on it. Ridge Holland against Antonio DeLuca. Poor Antonio had no business here. He just didn't stack up visually or at experience level. And I know they're going for a quick and decisive victory for Ridge Holland, but this was the closest they came to looking like AEW when they, Antonio needs some size and seasoning before he's on national television. Because Ridge Holland is obviously a great athlete and is a beast, but he's very green, and this was short and basic. And it needed to be, and you probably should have had a veteran in there to make Ridge look a little better instead of just him having to carry the whole ball because it was all him. Anyway, and I'm not saying that the veteran should have gotten offense. I'm saying you should have had a squash from a guy that was a little bit more experienced so that Ridge would have looked better while squashing him. The old line in the locker room, I don't know if I can figure out how to beat you without hurting myself. This is where I realize they're not hot-shotting here because it's important if they want to build this Ridge Holland. It's important for him to get wins. It's important for him to be dominant, get squashes. They'll do squash matches. They'll do wins. They'll do cold matches like this. They won't make them go 20 fucking minutes like the other guys, but they'll do these things to get talent over and for the long run of the business. And what's the next takeover going to be? And what's takeover is going to be in 6 months or whatever, instead of hot-shotting it. And, the other guys have to drop the cow every fucking week. If you don't know what I mean by drop the cow, go back to the 1975 Saturday Night Live box set. Oh my God, they've dropped the cow. The match and the sketch are over. But anyway, so Ridge beat him, and he should, but it was what it was. Pretty much what it was, wasn't it, Brian?
Nothing I could add.
Okay, then EO in the back here. This EO was speaking in Japanese and then English, but I understood the Japanese a little better than the English. Then here comes Mr. and Mrs. Sameface. They're yelling at EO. Then Priest comes in and punches Johnny Sameface. I could have done without this because now you've got Damian Priest that was just in a really good fucking piece of business, and now he's in contrived shit with the girls and the midgets. And it wasn't convincing, and it made him look bad because he's involved in this. And apparently they've got a mixed tag for next week. So I have to watch Io Shirai and Candice LeRae to get to see Damian Priest. Oh, woe is me. Okay, the main event was the Gauntlet match, and we said Priest and Austin Theory was the best thing on the show, and it was. But the parts of this, especially when they got it thinned out a little bit, was very good. Also, we can't say it was.
Yeah, let me just say that right here. That's exactly right. I hate the idea of the Gauntlet match. I hate another multiple man thing on the show. But the stuff with O'Reilly and Thatcher, and the stuff with O'Reilly and who am I forgetting now that was at the end of the match?
What Cameron Grimes,
And Cameron
Bronson
Grimes.
Reed.
And Cameron Grimes.
And-
Man, let me tell you something. When I was fantasy booking New York Championship Wrestling, I wish I had Cameron Grimes. But that stuff was really good. But it was the first several minutes of it I didn't really care for.
Well, here's the thing is I like the idea of a gauntlet match when you have two guys wrestle and then there's a finish. One guy wins and then the next opponent comes in and you do the eliminations that way. As a matter of fact, Rob Moore from down in Greenville, Texas, got me a cease and desist letter back in Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
I was there.
Coming up with the rules of that match, and some fucking tough guy. What are you, some kind of tough guy? A tough man contest fighter was like, because I named it King of the Mountain, and he got mad because he had the King of the Mountain. But that makes sense. This, where guys are added before there's a decision between the other two, it becomes another multiple man match that you can't do your best in. These guys, once again, far and away the talent that was in this, especially once my friend Kushida was out of it, they did as good a job as you can have in a match like this. But it's still, a lot of it doesn't fucking make sense. When they start out, Kushida and Kyle, in a match like this also, with the first two guys, just killing time. Everybody knows that nothing's going to fucking happen. And it's just killing. It's like the first 5 minutes of the War Games. Anyway, when Bronson Reed came in, they did some nice big man spots and then went back into the three-way type of thing. But just the first half I wasn't a fan of. And even with the guys that can work, Kyle O'Reilly gets knocked out to the floor and the referee leans out to see if he's okay. Through the ropes, the referee's still standing in the ring, and Velveteen Dream hits the ring, hits Kushida with a big finish, less than 10 feet behind the referee's back, and leaves in an empty building without fans screaming to cover up that. You see where I'm going with this, right? You can get away with it when there's fucking 5,000 people screaming, but and he just Dream VD is his abbreviation, by the way. Velveteen Dream rolls out, and Bronson Reed pins him, and that's where they piped in extra fake booze for Velveteen Dream. Did that really bother you there? It was obvious.
It was obvious. I can't say it bothered me. Again, this is the part of the match I didn't care much about.
Well, I'm just to up the goddamn level of booze, fake booze from people that aren't even there, from the background to goddamn like a cacophony, like somebody was starting a riot. Anyway, and then here comes poor old Timothy Thatcher and enters, and he gets up on the apron and somebody blasts him and knocks him back to the floor. We go to the break. Thanks for coming. That was the most inauspicious entrance to the ring since Matt Sydal 2 weeks ago in AEW. That part of the match up to then pretty much was just sucked donkey cock. But they come back from the break, and here comes Cameron Grimes. And holy thank fucking goodness. He comes out, he jumps up, he does a crossbody off the top rope on the fucking guy, rolls up to his feet, takes his hat off, and hangs it on the fucking ring post in one move. That was the best goddamn entrance of the night on either show. And then he lit the thing up. He had some life and some energy, and he's different, and it lit it up. It was, from this point on, it was watchable. It was better because it was still four guys doing things to each other at random instead of an actual match, because that's what it has to be. But it was four guys doing those things at a high level and fairly logically. And did you notice, by the way, this more than ever, if you put a mask on Timothy Thatcher, if he looked right now, if he looked the same way in 1974, you could tour him as Dory Funk Jr. doing some kind of fucking gimmick, and people would buy it. He's a body double. Can you see it now in your mind's eye?
Not really. Not really.
What? I have never
Dory
seen
Funk Jr.?
Dory Funk Jr. and Timothy Thatcher, if they were both the same age in 1974 and you put a mask on both of them, they could body double. The way he doesn't wear knee pads, the way he moves, the long rangy fucking the way he puts the fucking holes on. He's the closest thing I've seen to any other fucking person in wrestling history move like Funk Jr. Anyway, Bronson Reed is a beast and should be a big star. Kyle O'Reilly hit a Bobby Eaton level knee drop off the top rope on Reed there and got the pin on him after they did that little exchange. And I would love to see O'Reilly and Thatcher in a single match. I think that would be a great thing. I wrote now, this is winning me over. At one point, Grimes clotheslined himself over the top rope. He was charging at Kyle O'Reilly, and I don't know what was going to go on there, but Cameron went with it. He went over the top rope. Kyle rolled up Thatcher, 1, 2, 3. Then Cameron Grimes hit O'Reilly with a finish and thought he won, but O'Reilly got his foot to the rope, so he got some fucking heat on O'Reilly, and then more fake boos. Where do they think these people are, that we think the people are coming from? That we should suddenly hear this? They're not, there's not even any Thunderdome faces. So what's with just a little murmur throughout helps it from echoing and sounding like a goddamn broom closet, but don't fucking bring up fake boos from people we know are not there. Anyway, Kyle and Cameron Grimes had a nice exchange, and Kyle tapped him out with a fucking leg lock, and it was really good. The second segment, or the final segment, after it got thinned out a bit and got going.
I agree. It's really something when you see that clip on Ring of Honor last week of Kyle O'Reilly from years ago. You know, he still looks young, but when you see him there, it's like, wow, he really has come a long way.
Yeah. Well, that's because it was always so funny because he looked 12 when he was 20 in Ring of Honor. And that's, but you could always tell him and Cole both. That's why we kind of started protecting them and elevating them from the start, because they both had it, and in completely different ways. Kyle Cole's a classic worker and it was a classic baby face and can perform classically anyhow. And Kyle has an unorthodox physique and a completely different style, and nobody else but him does it, and it works for him, especially with that fucking face. But you could tell they had something, but they got to get older and just figure out what that is. That's what I'm saying with a guy like Theory. He'll be a big star looking differently, but you can tell he's got everything except just roughing up a little bit.
The Ciampa segment was good. The Damian Priest match was great. The end of the Gauntlet match was good. We really liked Ring of Honor this week, and the one big difference, well, there's a lot of big differences, the presentation, everything else, but one of the big differences is Ring of Honor was only 1 hour. If that show was 2 hours, I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much. And
well, but now wait, back up, because you got to qualify that. If the same stuff was on that show and it was 2 hours, no, it'd taken twice as long, and we wouldn't have. If there was more of that good of stuff, it wouldn't have been as bad. But 2 hour, this show, to the point I guess you were going to make, and I'll let you make it after I anticipate it. If this show had been an hour, it'd have been great with only the good stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's really what it is. And NXT used to be 1 hour on the WWE Network. When it went to USA, it became a 2 hour show. I understand it's 2 hours. I understand why, because AEW is 2 hours. That's the only reason why. But it's much better as a 1 hour show.
But you know what? God damn it. There were times in OVW when I wished I had 2 hours. When we had so many guys and so much stuff going on, and the crowd would stay. The crowd was always hot because they knew the guys, they were into it. If you have and they have more talent, I'm puzzled at some of the decisions they make, but you can do a good 2 hour show by just doing more of the good stuff and less of the bad stuff. And, because I'm just saying, I did some 2 hour specials in OVW where it was an entertaining 2 hours just because we did more of the good shit and less of the bad shit, and only had one 20 fucking something minute match, which was a main event involving two guys that could do it. And you let everybody else come out and do what they can do positively for as long as they can do it well for. And the show moves better. But just multi-man matches, lack of focus on who's the babyface, who's the heel, too much drama in between amongst bad actors. That, there's the same problem on every wrestling program. It just do more of the good stuff and less of the bad stuff is basically it. Anyway, I guarantee you one thing. If there's a way that I can figure out to fast forward all the girls' parts in the mixed tag match next week and just watch the guys so I can see Damian Priest kick the shit out of Johnny Sameface, I'm going to do it.
Well, fortunately, there is a way. It's called fast forward.
You want to bet on it?
Don't want to bet that you're going to skip the women's matches? I would not take that bet.
Not even my bookie would take that bet, folks, but they'll take everything else because winning season has returned at my bookie, and that means doubling your first deposit. Folks, the insane prop bets, the epic bonuses, the crazy cross-sport wagers, it's all there at my bookie. And winning season means watching live sports, betting live sports all season long, and then getting paid for doing it. The NFL has returned, action-packed Sundays, huge cash prizes, and right now, because our friends at MyBookie know and understand that me and Brian Last don't know how this shit works, and he'd probably bet the Mets just for the hell of it because he's beholden to them. But you guys who know how to do this,
it's true.
Go to mybookie.ag and use the promo code JCE and double your first deposit because new players get up to $1,000 in free play, which is designed to add more excitement to the sports you love and the games you bet. So bet with the best this NFL season for your chance to win big. Your winning season begins today only at MyBookie, mybookie.ag. Promo code JCE, double your first deposit, and see whether they will bet on me skipping all the rest of the girls' matches for the rest of the year, except for Rhea Ripley.
And Dakota Kai.
No, just Rhea Ripley.
And Dakota Kai? No?
I would have said Rhea Ripley and Mercedes Martinez, but now they've put a fucking gimmick on her and put her over in the terrorist group, and I don't want to have to watch Raw. Boy, she had a cup of coffee in NXT now that I think about it, didn't she?
It was pretty quick.
Didn't take long at all. So we couldn't enjoy her a bit. Anyway.
Good cage match, though. We got at least a good cage match out of her.
No wonder they rushed that program. We were wondering why they started the program with a goddamn... Well, now we know. All right.
I guess, all things considered, if you're going to bring these people up to be in Retribution, they brought up Mia Yim and Mercedes Martinez, two of the more experienced women in the company. Right? I mean, they've been out there for a number of years. They're really talented. They're good.
Yeah, I'm not opposing them being brought up to anything that's better for them, but since they were just on TV last week on national television, why'd they have to change their fucking name? Anyway, I know a lot of people that should be changing their names that were responsible for the All Friends production on September 23rd on the other channel opposite to NXT.